Kai, a young boy, desperately rushes into Kremoa's Adventurers Guild, begging for help. His poor village is under a Black Viper's attack. Sadly, the guild's receptionist, Helen, only has bad news. There's no high-ranking adventurer present to help Kai. Just then, a ridiculously dressed girl in a bear outfit, Yuna, appears, offering her help. Though the boy finds it hard to believe she's an adventurer, he has no choice. Soon, Yuna leaves together with Kai on her two massive summoned bears, Kuma and Kuma. Once the two arrive, Kai bursts into his home, calling out to his parents. As expected, his father finds it hard to trust Yuna and ridicules her, but Yuna can't bother much and leaves to follow the Viper. Inspecting the Viper's trail, Yuna ends up on some desolate dunes, only for a massive, outrageously scary Viper to emerge from right below her. Comically, Yuna's no bullshit demeanor fails to get impressed, and immediately starts experimenting on the poor thing as if it's a lab rat. She soon discovers that it can only be killed from within, and shoots fire into it. With the Viper down, Yuna finds Kai on her way back and delivers the good news. Kai's eyes fill with happy tears, and soon the village rejoices, treating Yuna to some precious eggs in the morning. With that, Yuna returns to Cremonia's Adventurer Guild, as usual surprising them with her outlandish capacity. However, the truth is that Cremonia's realistic fictional world is in an RPG game, and Yuna's a peculiar little player. Yuna had gotten addicted to a new RPG game, World Fantasy Online, quite possibly the most generic name for an MMO I've ever seen, and was awarded a gift, a Kuma set. It's basically a cheat outfit to ridiculously propel a player's capabilities. With that, Yuna finds herself on a new map and is unable to exit. Not just that, but she's demoted all the way to level 1. Suddenly, a wolf monster pounces at her. Only Yuna finds herself unusually strong and even saves a young girl named Fina. Fina's mom is sick, making her comb the forest for herbs. She dismantles the wolf for Yuna and guides her to Cremonia, where Yuna meets Uncle Gents. Gents scolds Yuna before thanking her bear savior. Yuna then asks Fina to guide her around town and even shares her earnings. The next day, Yuna realizes that she appears as herself and not as an avatar. Nevertheless, Yuna can't bother much about the real world and hops off to experiment with her bear abilities. Later, Fina advises her to register with the Adventurers Guild, where Yuna faces some discrimination from a rowdy adventurer, Deborane. Unlucky him, the dude gets finished with a single bear punch, and Yuna successfully registers with the guild. However, as an adventurer, little Yuna wreaks havoc, hoarding piles of monsters every day. One day, Gens reveals his feelings for Fina's mother, Tirumina, asking Yuna to hire Fina as a dismantler and help her in running the house. Yuna agrees, and while saving Fina once again, this time from a tiger wolf, she offers Fina the position, which she happily accepts. Yuna continues to shovel monsters, giving Fina a lot of work and not quite realizing that she's even tiring her out. So much so that one day Helen asks her to stop for a while, making the bear girl sulk. Suddenly, an angry fellow adventurer named Lance comes yelling at Yuna for hitting Deborane when his party mates, Gil and Lorena, subdue him. It turns out that with Deborane out, his party can no longer continue the quest they've been assigned. Only lucky for them, Helena appoints them Yuna. Yuna and Lorena then make their way to the Goblin Cave, with poor Lorena protesting against all the jokes Yuna keeps throwing at Deborane. The man's probably sitting there sneezing constantly in bed. Nevertheless, they arrive at the cave, and Yuna skillfully takes the guards out before sealing the cave with fire to kill the rest. Only the Goblin King survives and bursts out. However, Yuna plunges the ogre into the floor before killing it with some bear slashing. With that, she leaves the harvest to Lorena and sleeps in a small house that she's made outside. Classic. Once they're back, Yuna grows blushed when Lance apologizes and thanks her. She's now even able to summon her bears and realizes they're capable of combat. Introducing them to Fina, she then heads to the Merchant Guild and purchases land. Strangely, the receptionist, Mylene, shows great interest in acquainting herself with Yuna, thanks to all the big kills that Yuna's been supplying the Merchant Guild to sell. With that, Yuna builds her own bear home near Fina's. Presently, the Black Viper lies before Cremonia to harvest, while Yuna's bear house becomes a spectacle. Soon, Fina returns, presenting Yuna the Viper's mana gem when Yuna discovers healing powers by curing a cut on Fina's hand. Fina then tells her that Yuna's called by the Adventurers Guild. The next day, the guild leader enters to find Yuna and Helen in a tussle. She absolutely refuses to take up a lord's request. Yuna's always found nobles to be very troublesome and evil. However, upon the leader affirming her of Lord Cliff's character, Yuna agrees and arrives before the noble. He welcomes her warmly, explaining that his daughter has grown quite obsessed obsessed with the new popular bear adventurer when suddenly a little blonde girl, Noir, bursts in, smothering Yuna affectionately and making her tell all the brave stories. Later, Yuna lets her ride the bears, and it even tempts the Lord. Sometimes even a man misses his childhood too. Nevertheless, he asks Yuna to give him the Viper's Mana Gem, wishing to gift it to His Majesty on his upcoming 40th birthday. Only Yuna declines, but hands him the Goblin King's sword instead. In exchange, she asks for his assistance if she ever needs one in the future, and Lord Cliff accepts. Sadly, Yuna returns that day to find a disturbed Fina at her door. Tidamina has been getting worse, with Gens being out trying to desperately find herbs. With no hope and Fina and her little sister, Shuri, bawling, Yuna tries healing Tidamuna. She soon realizes that she needs to target the root of Tidamuna's illness and miraculously heals her entirely. The happy family, including Gens, embraces in a happy, sad hug while Yuna finds herself wanting to protect their smiles. Yuna wishes she could supply Tidamina with eggs for a speedy recovery, only they're a rare commodity only available in Kai's village. That's when she notices a new ability, a bear teleporting gate, and just like that, she procures the eggs and hands them to Fina. Fina's the only one who she tells about the bear gate and soon takes her to visit Kai's village. However, this time she finds a group of dirty, hungry orphans standing in the market and waiting for customers to hand them leftovers. Yuna's kind heart takes her to the orphanage where the director and Miss Liz inform her of the funds that Lord Cliff cut them off from. Yuna's absolutely angered knowing that the nobles are always evil and leaves the kids with warm beds and food for now. Back at home, Fina wishes there were more eggs, making an idea pop into Yuna's mind. She visits Mylene and purchases another piece of land, building a chicken house on it for the orphans to work on and harvest eggs to become self-sufficient. For their protection, she lets the Merchant Guild become the selling front and asks Tidamina to become the administrator. Not even the most efficient adventurer is a lazy bag. Nevertheless, her idea flourishes and soon the orphanage does too. Only Lord Cliff arrives at her doorstep, questioning why he's not allowed to buy the eggs, and upon seeing Yuna angry, he leaves. It turns out his subordinate had been hogging all the funds, but Lord Cliff fittingly holds him accountable and even bows his head before the director and Miss Liz, making Yuna feel really guilty for hating him. Good news soon sails in, and Gens finally confesses to Tidamina, who happily accepts, only to fall into a slight fight over Gens's bad eating habits. Man's been eating ketchup with his eggs. I'd be breaking that off too. To patch the two up, Fina asks Yuna to take them on a crystal flower hunt, a pretty flower that Gens, Tidamina, and their father had found at their first party. Yuna agrees and the three leave for the hunt. On their trip, Shuri buds a really brave girl, faring with snakes, nudging a beehive, and even crossing a scary bridge confidently. They soon arrive at the plain only to find none of the crystal flowers in sight. Shuri and Fina refuse to give up and desperately search, but to no avail, when suddenly Shuri notices something sparkling. A beautiful blue bird stuck in a bramble. Shuri and Fina help the bird, which leaves them with a single brilliant blue feather. Though they weren't able to find the flower, Shuri and Fina return with their feather, and it turns out it was a feather that their father used to cherish a lot. Finally, Shuri and Fina's efforts bring the family together through their father's memory. Later, once the parents are asleep, Shuri, Fina, and Yuna make puddings and have a pleasant sleepover. The next day, Yuna delivers the pudding to everyone, surprising them, and even Cliff, who finds the dessert comparable to the royal capital's delicacies. With that, he asks Yuna to take Noir to the capital. Soon, Yuna receives Noir and decides to bring Fina along with her. In the start, it feels like Noir is a bit jealous of Fina's closeness with Yuna, but soon settles and makes friends. The next day, Yuna encounters and helps two nobles from monsters. Surprisingly, Noir seems to know them. It's Count Gran and his granddaughter, Misa. Immediately, the two take a liking to Yuna and ask her to escort them as well. Though Yuna doesn't want to, upon Noir's request, she agrees. The group soon arrives at the royal capital and at Noir's mother's mansion. Lord Elalara comes running out to embrace Noir, surprising Yuna with how young she is. And it looks like Lord Cliff has a questionable type, huh? Nevertheless, Noir excitedly introduces Yuna to her. Yuna also delivers the Goblin King's sword from Cliff and a letter detailing all about her. That day, Noir's elder sister, Shia, comes home to find his mom and sister on bears. Automatically, she grows jealous and also asks to spar with Yuna, which ends up in her expected defeat twice. Shia fully accepts her as a powerful adventurer, and the family sits down to eat Yuna's unique delicacies. The next day, Yuna and Fina go out to the market to buy bread, potatoes, and cheese, and once again serve the noble family some exciting food. Hamburgers and fries, making Elularia express that Yuna can definitely open a restaurant. Only Yuna brushes the thought aside for now. The next day, while treating the noble family with pizza, Yuna is asked to accompany Elalaria to the royal castle, while Noir asks Fina and Misa to accompany her to the market. In the castle, Yuna meets the little princess, Lady Flora, and as usual becomes an automatic favorite of hers. Nevertheless, back in the market, Noir leads Misa and Fina to a printing shop. The keeper hands her Bear membership cards, and that's when Noir reveals that she has made a Kuma Club, with a goal to reach 10,000 members, and makes the two promise to keep it a secret from Yuna. Those little critters are becoming stalkers. However, while out in the market, Yuna finds people talking about monsters attacking those arriving for the king's birthday party. This makes Noir worried. She innocently asks Yuna to receive Cliff, who'd also be on his way to the royal capital as well. Meanwhile, at the castle, Golzam, a royal trader, appears before the king and Elalaria, warning them of an oncoming army of 10,000 monsters that he's gathered before vanishing. Immediately, the king calls the capital's adventurer guild leader, Sanya, who starts detecting thousands of monsters on the outskirts of the city, when suddenly she picks up on Yuna absolutely ravaging them. Yuna manages to safely procure Cliff as well as defeat Gulzam and is met with an exasperated Elalaria upon returning. The two nobles immediately take her to the king, who offers her a reward. Only Yuna declines, saying she did it for her friend's sake. Nevertheless, Yuna's pudding goes popular at the Magistrate's birthday party, and he even visits them at the mansion. With that, Yuna and Fina decide to go on a last day out before leaving for Cremonia, and return to the bread bakery, only to find it closed. The two meet the owner, Morin, and her daughter Karin, who recently lost her father. After a back-crushing debt from a shady place, they're now forced to move out. Once again, Yuna feels bad and brings the two home, introducing them to her food ideas. Seeing that they've prepared it well, she offers them to work at her shop, making the two surprised and excited. They happily accept, and soon Yuna and Fina bid everyone goodbye before heading home. Back at Cremonia, Yuna immediately procures another land through Mylene, making Turamina administer it too. Morin and Karin arrive as well and grow baffled seeing the size of it. Not just that, but Yuna also invites the orphans over, and together the group cleans and readies the building. Mylene then shows them the adorable bear uniforms, with Fina naming the restaurant the Bear Haven. The place goes immediately popular, with crowds waiting in massive lines. Even with the orphans, Marin and Karin working together, Yuna finds herself giving a hand and finally closing the busy night. Sadly, Noir arrives late with Cliff, who hands Yuna the papers affirming the shady debt business will be held accountable. Yuna communicates this to Marin, allowing them to return to the bakery. Only Marina and Karin decline and wish to stay with the Bear Haven. Soon, Yuna sets off on her next adventure, to the port town of Malala. She had grown desperate to eat some seafood and reached Mylene, who informed her of this place. Only Malala's cut off from Cremonia through a rocky mountainous terrain with harsh weather. But it's no problem for Yuna, who makes her way while talking to Fina on her bear phone, when suddenly she finds two travelers stuck in the snow. Mr. Damon and his wife, Eula, are from Malala and tell Yuna of the dire crisis there. They were traveling out to Cremonia in search of food after a massive kraken took over Malala's fishing ground, and the band of thieves wreaked terror on the civilians. Yuna decides to accompany them back to Malala, and just as they told her, the town seems to be submerged in doom. Even the Merchants Guild sells sparsely available food at high prices. However, Yuna leaves some meat for Damon's hungry family before making her way toward the Adventurers Guild. There, she finds the guild's assistant, Atola, drinking bitter tea to make it through the crisis. She comically laughs at Yuna until the little monster whips out the guild card, making Atola change colors lightning fast. With that, Yuna donates a whopping 5,000 wolves to Malala and is happy to see it a bit livelier the next day. Only Yuna's now under surveillance. One night, Yuna wakes up to the bear seeming worried and realizes she's about to get ambushed. Luckily, she captures the two intruders first, who turn out to be thieves sent to take her out. Yuna is angered and interrogates them of their hideout before arriving there and wiping the troublesome men out. Immediately, Atola gets down to interrogation, and it's only a matter of time before the Merchants Guildmaster, Mr. Zerond, turns out to be the culprit, enabling the thieves to plunder the civilians and pocket the town's valuables. Atola had already suspected him, but thanks to Yuna, they now have evidence to arrest him. With the thieves gone, Yuna is treated to a whole Japanese meal prepared by a chef Ons at a restaurant. Poor girl almost cries tasting Japanese cuisine and learns that the land of Wa has similar dishes. Only Malila is still in a fish deficit due to the kraken, and Yuna starts thinking of how to kill this monster. While wondering about several methods, she runs into Eula once once again and is heartily invited to dinner. There, while enjoying hot pot, an idea pops into her head. She immediately rushes to Atolla and asks her to get the longest rope she can get her hands on. The next day, Yuna and Atolla arrive at a bowl on the cliff and tie the rope to a tree. Yuna has decided to bait the massive kraken through the humongous worm she killed back in the royal capital. Soon the kraken takes the bait and Yuna quickly closes off the bowl's mouth, trapping the monster. She then proceeds to boil the water, and just as she reaches her limit, the kraken finally collapses dead. And so does a tired Yuna into Atolla's arms. With the kraken and the thieves gone, the steady supply of food resumes in Malala, and Yuna eats Ann's dishes to her heart's content. Only she now wishes Ann's to join her as a chef. Just then, Atolla appears asking Yuna for a special request. Soon Yuna arrives back in Cremonia, greeting Fina, who's already been waiting for her. To Fina's slight sadness, she rushes off straight to Cliff and puts forward Malala's request to join Cremonia. Lord Cliff finds the request impossible, but it's Yuna who once again surprises him by revealing that she's already dug a tunnel through the mountains, allowing a safe route to Malala. Woman's a literal Bob the Builder, or should I say Bear the Builder. Nevertheless, through Yuna's hard work, Mylene and Lord Cliff soon visit Atolla and the negotiations start. Yuna even returns and brings back Shuri and Fina to the port town of Malala and has them visit the sea for the first time. However, Yuna's growing popularity makes Fina feel a bit distanced. Once Yuna leaves to procure Ann's as her second chef, Fina can't help but feel inadequate and later asks Yuna for a break to up her skills. Only with Fina on a break, Yuna too starts to feel lonely until Noir comes to visit her and makes her realize it. Back at the Merchant Guild, Gantz too notices Fina's worry and asks her to open up. Fina finally lets in and explains how she feels inadequate for Yuna and finds it hard to express that she wants to be with her. Talking to Gantz gives her some confidence and she meets Yuna on her way out. Yuna takes her to the place she first met Fina and expresses how lonely her life changed after meeting her, making Fina realize that Yuna feels the same way as her. The two girls then hug, promising to stay together forever, and that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.